Evan here from MyoLab. Today we're talking about hip airplanes. Why? Hip airplanes are a phenomenal hip exercise, strengthening exercise. As we've talked about in many of our other videos, we need to make sure our hips are both mobile and stable so that way our lower back doesn't take on that load. This is a phenomenal exercise to build up a lot of strength, and you're going to quickly see your asymmetries, right versus left side, and feel that burn. First, we're going to do a full demo here of some of the variations, and then we'll bring Dan in to do a bit more of an in-depth breakdown. So first we're going to have Dan holding on to the front of this rig. So you can utilize any structure you have at home, like a kitchen counter, a wall, anything like that. We're going to be loading Dan's right leg. So this exercise is primarily for his right hip. How we first want to start, shoulders, shoulder width apart is how far your legs are. Then you're going to be lifting up your left leg, just getting that off the ground. A slight bend in your right knee, kind of like a little bit of almost like a quarter squat, a slight deadlift in that position. I want to make sure that the knees do not get further than shoulder width apart. So Dan is loading that right leg, making sure to activate his glute substantially, and then he's going to rotate his hips open to the left and back in. Again, big time focus on keeping those knees shoulder width apart. Now where Dan's going to feel the majority of this is often on that right side hip. The quad, the glute, the TFL complex, all of those areas. If you start to feel in the left hip, that's not the exercise we're focusing on here. Now Dan's going to use a stick for his stability. You can go 2 arms, 1 arm, whatever we're ready for at this point. And 1 more. As always, we want to focus both on the eccentric and the concentric phases. So raise it up nice and slowly and put it back down slowly. Dan's going to next move up using the side of the rig as a wall. So he's going to get himself about 2 inches away from that wall. Pretty common spot for most of us. The closer you are to the wall, the easier it is for you to lean into it. The further you are away from the wall, the less easy it is to lean in, of course. This is a nice regression if you're struggling so far. So as Dan rotates to the left, he can check his body against that wall nice and easy. This is a super easy regression. As he gets more and more confident, we're going to get him to step another couple inches out to the left, away from that wall. So as you can see, he's able to lean into the wall for as much support as he needs while building up that confidence. Now, once Dan's progressed past this point, we're going to get into that true airplane, where you have a dowel or a broomstick, Swiffer stick across the back as if it were a squat bar. So now he's imagining he's an airplane, he's raising up and doing the exact same movement. Here we're going to go for 2 reps. Dan's keeping the core nice and tight, putting all that pressure through his right hip, feeling the burn. Fantastic. Now Dan's going to go into another progression that's going to show a straight-legged variation. So what we're going to notice here is he's going to have the dowel on his left foot, hand on top of it, keeping it in line with the front of his hip. Dan's going to put that leg into extension, and you'll see the dowel helps us to really support and ensure that we have all these points of contact. Now, as we're in this extension, he's going to go into an open rotation. Now you'll also notice in this progression, Dan has a straighter leg, more challenging for the bending and the stability of your hip joints. When Dan feels confident at this point, he's going to again make it more and more challenging. Progressions are always removing the stability. So now he's in free space. It's okay, we're going to make some errors there, and that's okay. That means you're challenging yourself. So we want to go ahead and get back into a nice, comfortable position where we're feeling confident in our movement. Eventually, he gets rid of the dowel entirely and is able to control his body in free space, which is ultimately the end goal of all rehab. All right, let's talk about some common errors here. Now, between any of these variations, one of the most common errors you're going to see is people not rooting their foot into the ground. Now, what do I mean by rooting? Well, you're gonna see here with Dan, if he's not rooting his foot down to the ground, that guy is just shaking in and out. What we wanna do is imagine you are gripping into the ground, turning it out like you're screwing a jar lid. That's gonna start to activate your right glute. Now, if you fail to do that, your knee is also gonna be going along for the ride. So that's a common error where we're not getting the activation of the glute that we want. Now, in my first variation there, when we were talking about a slight knee bend, we want to make sure those knees are shoulder width apart, not opening up. So another common error in this one is people opening up that hip. That's more of a fire hydrant exercise where you're actually doing the left side glute. And remember, we're focused on the right side. Now, if we go into the variation Dan did with the stick having his hip into extension, we actually are okay with opening up the hips because we're locked into a different position. So for this, we actually do want to support that hip opening. As you can see, the whole body is in alignment. As he's doing this, we're making sure to not overextend through our lower back, to not cheat through rotating through the spine, but rather keeping a nice neutral spine. Another common error with this one, sometimes people's legs start to come in a little bit too much. That's going to be, again, pressurizing that lower back more than we want to see. So keep it nice and wide, and move together as one singular unit. Now let's talk about exercise dosage. Your practitioner may specify the correct number of reps and sets for you based on your specific case. Generally speaking though, phase 1 rehab, that's when we want to turn on a muscle that has been inactive. Let's just go until you feel that burn. This is awesome because this means your muscle is finally starting to work. Phase 2, now you're out of pain and you're starting to build some strength. For this, we're going to technical failure. That occurs when you can no longer do the correct form. For example, some of those common errors that we just discussed. Or if you're able to go all the way to 25 of these, it's time to progress to a new exercise. Any questions still? Great, leave us a comment below, message us on Instagram, or send us an email to info@myolab.ca.